Listen-only mode.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Heather Turner with PI, and welcome to Member Retention and Acquisition for Associations. A few housekeeping things before we get started. This webinar is being recorded and will be available in the Members section of the PI website, as well as publicly available on PI's blog for future reference under the tab B&B Association Resources. The address of the blog is inkeepingblog.com. I would ask if anyone has questions, please ask them as they occur to you and enter them in the question box to the right-hand side of your screen. I will address any questions at the end. Now, one of the biggest questions are why are innkeepers not joining local and state associations? Well, associations across the board are having issues with member acquisition and member retention. Chambers of commerce, other business trade associations, as well as lodging associations, not just bed and breakfast associations, are seeing issues with this. There are a myriad of reasons behind this: the changing economy, the younger generation going into business with different wants and needs in order to be interested in joining an association, and a changing industry with innkeepers being asked to spend money every which way. They ask themselves on a daily basis almost, should I pay $225 plus a one-time fee of $50 to my local B&B association or $700 to TripAdvisor? And realistically, which will get me heads in beds quicker? Now, one of the reasons that they don't join is they didn't know there even was a local or state association. If B&Bs are not aware of your association's existence, that's a sure sign that your chapter is not reaching out to the local lodging community as well as it could be. Many new B&B owners may not be aware that there are associations to join in the first place. Many new innkeepers are transplants, and innkeeping is their second or third profession. They might have come from industries where belonging to a trade association was not something that they had either interacted with prior, depending on what positions they came from, or in some cases, they may not have been trade associations that gave value to them in the past, so they may not consider investigating ones in a different industry. Another reason why they don't join is no one invited them to join. Even if a bed and breakfast is aware of a state or local association, it may not be on the top of their radar why to join, or it may be on one of their numerous to-do lists to investigate and join, but not at the top or buried under more, to them anyway, important lists like call the plumber, get the fire inspector in for re-inspection, etc., etc., etc. The key is to invite them. They may know of your existence, but people like to be invited. And make it a personal invite, not a stock or form letter. Call them, or if you have a board member or current loyal member close to someone that's not a member, have them do some more personal in-person outreach and explain what great benefits belonging to your lodging association offers. Make sure that that person has a script and some key pointers about the benefits of the organization so they can answer questions and present the organization in a knowledgeable and helpful way. As an incentive for getting current members to do some in-person outreach to other innkeepers, give them some incentives to do so. For every innkeeper they recruit, they get a break in their dues, for example, or some extra marketing recognition on your website or publications. Another reason innkeepers may not be joining your association: no one has responded to them. Think about it. If you personally contacted your chapter to find out about membership, would someone return your phone call or email? Do you know that for a fact? And more importantly, even a phone call or email is returned, how long does it take? A few days, a week, more than that? Realistically, no one likes to be ignored. Think of it from the perspective of the potential member. I have the money, I have the interest. If none or a delayed response, well, the view is, well, they don't want me or my money, so perhaps I should go elsewhere and see what else is out there. They've done studies on that time lag is the #1 killer of member acquisition and retention. Even if someone contacts someone that's not the person they need to find out about membership, i.e. perhaps they contact a board member or another member, that initial point of contact still needs to be followed up on to make sure it did happen. If it did, terrific. That innkeeper is going to be very happy with their original inquiry was revisited and feel even better about joining. If it didn't get followed up, you obviously have a problem and need to identify where the point of contact got broken down and fix it. Make sure all of your board members are aware of the importance of returning phone calls and emails for potential and renewing members. And it's best practices when following up on a potential new member that's contacted the board to BCC other board members on the response so that they're in the loop, and also send them an additional email or an email prior to sending that out, telling them they've been BCC'd so they don't hit reply all. One of the other reasons innkeepers may not be joining local or state associations is they might feel the associations may not meet their needs. So think about it. What are your benefits really? Have you analyzed them to see what value they're really providing members? A listing on an association's website may have little value to an innkeeper if they have Googled bed and breakfasts in whatever state the association is listed in, and your association's website comes up extremely low in Google rankings, for example. Innkeepers may be viewing part of your fees as a directory value. Have you polled your current members to find out what they have found value in for being association members? That data is key to advertising your membership to potential members, as well as asking potential members directly, what do you want to get out of association? Advocacy, a directory listing, support for questions and issues, networking with other innkeepers and industry experts. Every innkeeper is going to have different perceived wants and needs, but unless you ask them what they're looking for and what space an association can fill for them, you won't know. Be as persistent as you can and ask. Instead of, we do this to help innkeepers, phrase it as, what can we do to help you? And try to avoid phrases like you should, as in you should be a member of our association because. Instead, substitute phrases like many of our state and local inns have gotten value from our organization because. Communication is key, especially in that initial point of contact, and letting them know all the benefits an association offers, including some that may not be listed on your benefits sheet or website. As an example, an innkeeper that was having trouble with her bedandbreakfast.com listing and wasn't having good luck getting it resolved went to your association's yearly conference and got to talk to them in person and quickly resolved the issue. Another example might be one innkeeper uses Molton Brown amenities, loves them, and doesn't want to switch, but cannot make them order minimums all the time. By networking with a couple of the other association members that also use Molton Brown amenities, she was able to continue using them by doing group ordering, and all of them long-term save money as they split the shipping costs. So another reason that innkeepers may not be joining an association, dues. And that seems to be one of the #1. Dues are too expensive for what the association offers. But it's all about value. When members are deciding to join or rejoin an association, they do a mental calculation of the expected value of your association's membership by comparing the benefits they expect to receive to what they have to pay, i.e. dues, time commitment, return on their investment, etc. To understand what drives an innkeeper's perception of value, or more specifically, perceived value. How much value do they get from their association membership when compared to other alternatives that are available to them? Directories, TripAdvisor listings, OTA listings, pay-per-click, social media. People join for one basic reason, to get their needs satisfied. Some can be satisfied for member benefits, continuing education, the association website, a members forum, And other needs could be met by being on committees and volunteering by having them work on the group goals as a whole. An innkeeper in New York, for example, may see the big picture and that by helping to lobby for adjusted zoning in a town that is not her own, by helping other inns in the association in that town, she is helping her industry as a whole in New York State. By putting a price tag on each benefit, it also helps innkeepers to understand what their dues are going for and towards. A $225 a year membership, for example, goes towards website maintenance, a brochure or rack card design and printing, a part-time executive director or administrator salary, a yearly advertising partnership with a state radio station, and 2 ads per year on NPR, just as an example. And then breaking it down even more into specifics. The NPR ad costs $1,200 a year, but the return is at least 5 bookings per year for each inn, and that's been a proven track record of it. And the rack cards are getting distributed to 17 state tourism centers with the potential of 12 million plus people a year going through them and potentially taking those rack cards and picking them up. Now, these are some of the other reasons that people don't join state and local associations. And some things you can't control, but some you can. If you're having multiple innkeepers tell you too many sales pitches by vendors at conferences, for example, then perhaps you need to look at both the vendors you're inviting, as well as setting some guidelines for vendor attendees and tell them upfront why you are providing them with these guidelines, and tell them reports of abuse of them will not get them invited back in the future. While a state association, for example, may be too geographically diverse to get to know people, there is space online where an association can start Facebook, a LinkedIn, or a Google group for their members, as well as perhaps offering an internal forum on which members can exchange information. I would recommend either Facebook, or secondary, a Google Plus group, so you can have a private group with moderators and no one else can see the posts unless they're association members. Not as many innkeepers participate on LinkedIn, so you may not see it get as much use. They feel they won't have time to participate or get involved. Well, in many organizations and associations, you get out of it what you put into it, feedback from someone. They feel they won't have time to participate or get involved may not necessarily be applicable to you, because there may only be one yearly event in person, and if an innkeeper doesn't want to participate or volunteer for something, it won't potentially affect their marketing or have anything to do with their dues. Now, a recent question we've had is innkeepers saying there's too many associations to join. Well, whether you're talking about state, regional, or national associations to join, realistically, the comeback that there isn't at least too many, at least not on the state or local level. On a bigger playing field is the American Hotel and Lodging Association, which inns can join for a very inexpensive fee. There is also PI and AIHP. While PI, for example, has been around for many, many years, the Association of Independent Hospitality Professionals is a fairly new organization started earlier this year. People might ask, and many innkeepers have asked, which is better? There is no perfect answer to that. Both organizations want to help innkeepers. I personally think long-term they will both fit different well-needed niches in the small lodging industry, and innkeepers will have to decide for themselves which niche fits their own needs. So how do you sell advocacy as an association member benefit? Now that can be a tough one because advocacy can be one of your most valuable association benefits. It's also referred to as lobbying, government affairs, or public policy, or simply by being in attendance at lawmaking functions that need the voice of the innkeeping industry contributing to it. A great example of strong association advocacy can be found in the recent B&B tax classification controversy. Innkeepers in Chicago recently voiced their opposition to a new tax reclassification that affects the B&B industry there. The Cook County Assessor's Office announced plans to reclassify all B&B establishments as commercial rather than residential properties beginning in January of 2016. Residential properties are taxed at 10% of their assessed value, as opposed to being taxed at 25% of their assessed value if deemed commercial. So basically B&Bs would be seeing a 15% tax hike. So Chicago Bed and Breakfast Association President Capra Fleming urged the assessor's office to delay the reclassification for an additional year. Fleming, who also owns the House of Two Urns in Chicago's Wicker Park neighborhood, also requested that the office reclassify all existing bed and breakfasts as mixed-use commercial residential properties to prevent owners from losing their homeowner and senior exemptions. And Fleming and others attending the meeting also took issue with the fact that the country's licensed vacation rentals and those renting rooms on websites like Airbnb would remain unaffected by the tax reclassification. So a prospective member may come back to you with, if you're saying, well, we advocate for you as innkeepers, with, I don't need to join. You'll still lobby on my behalf, and I'll still get the benefit of it. While this indeed might be true, it's best to have some comebacks ready to this, such as, we would be much more effective if we could prove that we represented a larger percent of innkeepers from the industry, which means you need to join. Or we need members to join because if everyone had that philosophy, we would not exist to lobby for you at all. Every voice matters. So some best practices responding to new membership information requests. How should your association respond to a request for your membership association? There are several ways to approach this. All are dependent on how your association is set up. Is it all volunteer-based? Do you have full-time or part-time staff? Snail mail is always an option, but printing costs and postage may be an issue depending on the association's size and operating fund. A phone call followed up by an immediate email is recommended. To save time, have several copies of the information needed to send out to a potential member saved in your drafts folder for quick access. Sending a PDF with key benefits as well as a history of the association, relevant association contact information, including board members and employees, if applicable, or sending an email with links pertaining to all the information that hopefully is available on your website for reference. I would actually suggest sending a combination of both in two separate emails, the one with the links referencing the PDF, also located on your website. The PDF email by itself may be filtered out as an attachment by some people's spam filters. I would make sure any request for information is followed up within 48 hours to see if there are any questions and to engage a potential member, preferably on the phone. Now, membership retention is by far the biggest issue that associations are having, and also member attrition, so I saved it for last. So it's key to getting regular feedback from members on how things are going, whether it be by survey, by email, or by phone call. Giving innkeepers the opportunity to get involved if they want to, and let them know about the opportunities membership and marketing committees. They can also be brand ambassadors at local events, industry conferences, or other venues where getting the word out about your association and the innkeeping industry as a whole is an opportunity. What happens often, unfortunately, in an association, once a member has joined, they feel forgotten about. I know associations are very aware that they should be doing this, but many don't keep track of touch point with members, and it falls by the wayside. Having a simple Excel sheet with members and just keeping dates and notes in it per touch point can be an easy way to look at your membership as a whole and identify innkeepers that may need a phone call. Creating a shareable Google spreadsheet and being able to share it with your board will help keep eyes on key areas that need to be addressed. I would suggest after they've been a member for 3 months, have a committee member or a board member call them to ask them if they have questions or concerns and how can the association serve them better. Realistically, an association should have a minimum of 3 to 4 additional contacts with first-year members. You should also be introducing new members to the board. And information distribution is key, and also keeping to exploring new opportunities or ideas, like instituting a mentoring program for new innkeepers, and keeping your membership informed about them is integral to retention. The final key to long-term member retention is benchmarking. Where is your association at currently? How many members? Where are they located geographically? How many rooms do they have? What's their average room rate? And while you won't necessarily be using this information to answer questions for potential guests, an association, it's good information to have and review and be able to revisit and analyze change in membership. And this is an example. In 2014, we had 52 members. 14 of them had under 4 bedrooms. In 2015, we raised our rates for dues and lost half of those under 4-bedroom properties. Over long term, several years, for example, if you see this as a trend, it might cause you to go and look at maybe an issue is obviously dues being too much for those under 4-bedroom properties. But unless you're actually benchmarking this, you won't know this. And it's a good idea to also benchmark where your association is at marketing-wise. Where is it coming up in Google, Bing, and other search engines? This should be looked at least once every 6 months, if not once every 3 months. Are you utilizing social media? If not, why not? What other venues have you used to advertise your association? What has worked in the past? What was not? And more importantly, what haven't you yet tried? And you need to look at all of this periodically and what your membership demographics are in order to project and set goals for where you want your association to be in 5 years and where you want it to be at next year. Having this data is very useful because it can also be information that can be used in member acquisition and retention. And as I mentioned earlier, get members involved. Give them some incentive for recruiting or an incentive for renewing early. This will especially appeal to the millennial generation as they move into the innkeeping field. And one final bit. If you have members that have stepped up above and beyond just paying their membership dues, say thank you and give recognition where you can, whether it be in a newsletter, on a website, on your social media. Acknowledging people's work and volunteerism is integral and twofold to getting them to stay members and to keep stepping up. One of the biggest causes of members not renewing or not volunteering is non-acknowledgement. A simple thank you can go a very, very long way. Does anyone have any questions? Okay. I am going to unmute everybody. And so if anybody has any questions or comments, I would love to take them now. Hello, hello. I hear some people on the other end. Linda, are you there? John? John, I see you asked a question, but unfortunately my question boxes seem to have disappeared. Ah, here we go. I'm sorry. Okay, so I'm going to mute everybody again because they've got some questions coming in, so thank you for your patience. So my first question is really a survey question for the group. Because of Airbnb's impact on the industry, should associations look to have a minimum size for memberships, i.e. we seem to have more issues with 2-room inns rather than 10-room inns? So I would ask everybody to give a little feedback on that if they have some comments, and I'll read that question again because it is to the whole group. Because of Airbnb's impact on the industry, should associations look to have a minimum size for memberships, i.e. we seem to have more issues with 2-room inns than with 10-room inns? Okay. And while everybody's thinking about that one, there's a nice long question/comment in here. It is all like evolution, survival of the fittest. Associations have to evolve with the times, which is very true. They seem to be offering the same old thing all the time. Lots of sheets, pottery cups, same old talks on the same old stuff. They need to think out of the box like they're telling us to do. Is there a group that is new, innovative, and different? When Pi had Jay, they had a lot going for them. He was progressive. Now he's gone and everything seems stagnant. Where are the perky organizations? So Mary, I have a question for you. Do you currently belong to Pi? because I don't think we're doing that badly right now. And I would love to, and I'm sure a couple of our board members would love to have a conversation with you as well about that. But that is a very good comment and statement, in that associations do have to evolve with the times, and a lot of them do seem to be offering the same old thing. Okay. You know what? We do have a bunch of just personal comments coming in. How many members does Pi have now? I know they lost a bunch when Jay left, just curious. You know, Jody, I don't know a current number. I haven't actually looked lately. I know that we're doing well, if that helps. And thank you. So I do have a question for everybody. If you have things that your association has tried and they have not, for whatever reason, gone well, or maybe they've tried something publicity-wise or tried something advertising-wise, I would like to know about it and what you guys did with it, if anything, because I'll be putting together a list of ideas for what associations have been doing, not just for advertising, but also member retention, things like membership retention letters. But again, if you've tried something that perhaps you saw didn't work well for you, you know, I'd love to include that so that maybe, you know, other associations can see that information and maybe try to avoid, you know, stepping in that quagmire that someone else has already, you know, had bad news with, so to speak. Okay. And a couple of people did have membership questions, and we will be getting back to them personally. And let's see. Okay. And just as a reminder, I know there was a couple of comments personally that Pi has changed since Jay left and gone to select registry. Jay, unfortunately, has, just to remind everybody, has now left the lodging industry and has gone back to the golf industry. It has been a great loss to the lodging industry as a whole, but everyone, and that means all associations, do need to move on from that. Okay, does anyone else have any more questions? Okay, if anyone has questions that they think about later on, if anyone has some feedback for me personally, as I said, any suggestions, ideas, things that their own associations have either done badly or done well, I'd love to have that information. We won't necessarily address who that information came from unless they would like us to, but I think the more information we can gather as a whole for the industry and help other associations with that information, the stronger we can all become as an industry. I want to thank everybody for attending this presentation. If anyone has any questions for me, I can be reached at marketing@paii.org. And again, if you have questions later on, please feel free to shoot me an email and I will be best able to get back to them. There is one more question that just came in. The issues relating to Airbnb relate also to B&Bs regarding of the size. So you should not just think of 2 or 10 size members. We should try and see what we can get to do to get Airbnb members joining us. It's a good thought. Okay, thank you. And again, thank you to everybody for attending. I hope you have a wonderful afternoon. Again, this webinar was recorded and will be available both in the members section of the Pi website as well as publicly available on Pi's blog for future reference. So have a wonderful afternoon, everyone.